World War II was over, but the shadows of the past lingered. While the world believed that Nazi war criminals would face justice, an incredible story was unfolding behind the scenes. A story in which former Nazis suddenly became valuable allies. Welcome to one of the darkest and most secretive operations of the Cold War. Operation Bloodstone. In 1947, the Cold War began, and the USA faced a dilemma. The Soviet Union was advancing, and the Americans needed expertise in espionage, science, and military strategy. But where could they find it? The answer was as shocking as it was pragmatic. Former Nazis. Under the code name Operation Bloodstone, the CIA and later the Israeli intelligence agency Mossad recruited former SS officers, scientists, and spies. These men, who just a few years earlier had worked for the Third Reich, suddenly became key players in the fight against communism. This controversial alliance changed the course of history. One of the most famous recruits was Reinhard Gehlen, a former major general in the Wehrmacht and head of the Foreign Army's East Department. After the war, Gehlen, with CIA support, built the Bundesnachrichtendienst (BND) in West Germany. His networks of former Nazi spies became a central tool in the fight against the Soviet Union. But Gehlen was just the tip of the iceberg. Wernher von Braun, the architect of the V-2 rocket, was recruited by the USA and later played a key role in NASA's space program. Even Klaus Barbie, the Butcher of Lion, was protected by the CIA and later smuggled to Bolivia, where he continued to work for the West. While the USA recruited former Nazis, the Israeli intelligence agency Mossad was primarily focused on bringing Nazi war criminals like Adolf Eichmann to justice. But the Mossad also used the knowledge of former Nazis, a lesser-known detail. The Mossad temporarily cooperated with the CIA to use former SS officers for operations in the Middle East. These men, who had once fought against Jews, suddenly became allies of Israel in the fight against Arab states. A bitter irony of history. But how did the USA and Israel justify this cooperation? The answer lies in the pragmatism of the Cold War. The threat from the Soviet Union was so great that moral concerns were set aside. However, Operation Bloodstone had serious consequences. Many of the recruited Nazis escaped justice and lived under false identities. It wasn't until decades later that some of them, like Klaus Barbie, were finally held accountable. Here are some numbers that will surprise you. Over 1,000 former Nazis were recruited by the USA and its allies after the war. Reinhard Gehlen received $5 million annually from the CIA to build his spy network. Wernher von Braun later became the director of NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center and played a central role in the 1969 moon landing. These numbers show how deeply the collaboration with former Nazis was woven into post-war history. Operation Bloodstone not only shaped the Cold War but also influenced the relationships between the USA, Israel, and Germany. It raises questions to this day. How far can one go to protect national interests? And what moral compromises are acceptable? This story is proof that the past is never truly over, and that the shadows of World War II continue to haunt our present. Operation Bloodstone is one of the darkest and most fascinating stories of the 20th century. It shows how former Nazis became allies in the Cold War and how intelligence agencies like the CIA and Mossad crossed moral boundaries. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and comment. Which other secret operation should we uncover next? Until next time, stay curious.